Oliver, SocGen could soon be delivering me a 5% dividend yield on its shares if all goes according to the French bank's plan. It's hard to find a 5% dividend yield almost anywhere these days, and barring Grexit or war, Europe is hanging in there. Should I be piling in?
Well, the key phrase in that question, I think, is if all goes to plan. So you have to think of why might it not deliver the dividends that would pay you this kind of 5% plus yield. There's two things that could happen. First, it might not meet its income growth targets. And the second is that it might not be able to pay out quite as much of that income as it wants to in dividends.
So let's start on income growth. How's business?
Well, it delivered a return on equity of 7% last year. That's an adjusted one. That's not a great number. Its target is to get up towards 10%. So that's quite a lot of extra net income. Where's it going to find that? Well, a few different places. It might hope for an improvement in France, maybe a little bit of loan growth. Certainly, lower impairment charges will help its income come in. And then its international operations, some of which should recover quite nicely. It might also help that its investment bank keeps performing well.
And on the other side, the payout promise. What would prevent that from being kept?
Well, the big question mark there is capital. SocGen has a Tier 1 ratio of just above 10%. That's okay. It's not awful, but it's not great either. The danger is that the regulators could decide, oh well, it's at least 6 months since we've last asked the banks for more capital. We will ask them for a bit more capital again. SocGen, like other banks in Europe, might find that the ECB or another regulator says you've actually got to hold a little bit more capital, so might not be able to be quite as generous with its dividend as it's planning to be at the moment. And its plan at the moment is to be paying out about half its net income as dividends. If the regulators decide that that kind of level is too much, well, maybe it could be forced to hold back its plans a little.
Last question, Oliver. SocGen has significant exposure to Russia. Is that a black hole that will never be filled, or is it becoming a more stable part of the portfolio?
It's a big question mark at the moment. It took a big goodwill write-down on the Russian business in the results that SocGen has announced today. So it's not a good area. That said, the goodwill write-downs should stop because there's no more goodwill left to be written down on that business. That said, it's a very difficult area to operate. SocGen's trying to reduce the amount that it uses of its own capital to fund that business and trying to introduce more ruble funding into the business, make it a little more independent. But still, it's a very volatile situation, and that's one of the things that might threaten its net income growth.
I'm thinking of getting my yield somewhere else. Thanks, Oliver.